The sky above the kingdom of Lithera shimmered with 1,000 colors. Golden rivers floated between towering crystal trees, and the city below sparkled like a jewel under the twin moons. It was a kingdom of wonder, ruled by Queen Celera, a figure both majestic and gentle. Her eyes, deep as the night skies, had always held the light of hope, but now they were clouded with sorrow. Her daughter, Princess Alara, had gone missing a fortnight ago. A diplomatic mission meant to foster peace with neighboring star systems had turned into a nightmare. The princess's ship vanished into the unknown, leaving only silence behind. No signals, no traces, nothing. Queen Celera walked alone along the balcony of her palace, her flowing robes brushing against the cold marble. The wind carried the soft hum of energy from the floating rivers below, but it did nothing to ease her heart. She remembered the last time she had seen Alara, her daughter's bright smile, her laughter echoing through the palace halls, the way she had touched her hand as if to say, "I will be fine." That memory now felt like a fragile dream. The Council of Lithera had already decided. Their advanced sensors, their immense knowledge of the stars, had failed to locate the princess. "It is lost, Your Majesty," one of them had said. "We must accept that she may never return." But Celera could not accept that. Her daughter was alive, she knew it. In the days following the disappearance, the palace was filled with quiet despair. Servants whispered prayers to the twin moons. The citizens lit memorial beacons, sending their hopes into the sky, and yet darkness seemed to spread over the city. Lithera had faced threats before, war, disease, cosmic storms, but nothing had broken its heart like this. One evening, as the moons rose high, a message arrived. It was unlike anything Celera had expected. A human traveler, someone from the distant and unpredictable planet Earth, had sent word. Humans were rare in the galaxy. They were curious, inventive, and often underestimated, yet they were known for their courage and for solving problems no one else could. The message was simple. "I believe I can find the princess. If you trust me, I will return her to you." She remembered stories of humans she had read in old archives, clever, bold, and brave. Stories where humans had outwitted forces far stronger than themselves. She had never thought she would trust one of them with her daughter's life. And yet, what choice did she have? She gave the order quietly with a voice that shook only slightly. "Send for the human." "I will meet them." Queen Celera studied him carefully. He was human, yes, but there was a quiet confidence about him, a calm that spoke of someone who had faced impossible odds before. "I am Captain Jaren," he said, bowing slightly. "I received your message. I believe your daughter is alive. I wish to find her." She wanted to ask how he knew to demand proof, but something about the way he spoke made her hope rise cautiously. "How can you be so sure?" she asked. Jaren pulled out a small, worn map. It was crude, made of scraps and marks in human handwriting, but it showed routes and patterns that sensors could not detect. "I have been tracking unusual energy readings," he explained. "They lead me to a region where your daughter's ship may have been trapped. The readings are faint but consistent. Something has kept her alive. I can find her." "Very well," she said. "You may try, but know this, if my daughter is harmed in any way, you will answer to me." She wondered how a human, with no advanced alien technology, could hope to succeed where Lithera's greatest minds had failed. Yet she could not deny the spark of hope that grew in her chest. The night before his journey, Celera could not sleep. She walked through the palace, passing by the rooms that had once echoed with Alara's laughter. She paused by her daughter's small garden, where glowing flowers bloomed in strange, impossible colors. She touched a petal gently, as if it could carry her message to Alara across the stars. The city outside was quiet, lit by the soft glow of memorial beacons. Citizens whispered prayers, but now some of them spoke of a human hero. The idea seemed almost ridiculous at first. A human, a creature of simple tools and strong will, venturing into unknown danger to save a princess. And yet in that hope the darkness lifted slightly. At dawn, Jaren's ship lifted from the palace grounds. The air shimmered with energy as it soared above the floating rivers past the crystal towers. Celera watched it go, her heart a mixture of fear and anticipation. She whispered softly as if her daughter could hear her, "Come back to me, Alara, come back." He relied not on brute force, not on weapons or shields, but on observation, logic, and his own human intuition. Each calculation, each adjustment, was a step closer to finding the princess. Days passed as he journeyed deeper into unknown space. He encountered strange phenomena, cosmic storms that shimmered like liquid light, asteroid fields that moved almost as if alive, and signals that seemed to whisper secrets across the void. Other species, wary of humans, watched from a distance, curious but hesitant. Humans were unpredictable, and that unpredictability was often their greatest strength. At one point, Jaren came across a derelict satellite, its sensors still active despite years of neglect. Using a simple device of his own design, he extracted data that pointed toward a distant, quarantined asteroid colony. The energy patterns matched the faint traces of Alara's presence. He smiled quietly to himself. "You're close, Alara." "Hold on." Solara could not help but feel a deep respect for the human who carried her daughter's fate. She had always valued knowledge and technology, but she had never seen such courage, such determination, and such unwavering focus. This human was unlike any being she had ever encountered. As the days stretched into weeks, the queen's sorrow softened. She walked among her people, greeting them with a faint smile, and each time she saw a beacon lit in hope, she imagined her daughter safe, waiting for rescue. The thought gave her strength, and she realized that sometimes hope came from the most unexpected places, like a human, small and simple, yet capable of extraordinary deeds. Jaren's ship approached the edge of the hostile star system where the energy readings were strongest. He paused, taking a deep breath. Beyond this point lay danger, uncertainty, and perhaps death, yet he did not hesitate. Humans, he knew, thrived on challenges that others thought impossible. Courage, creativity, and persistence were weapons more powerful than any shield or laser. As he entered the system, a new signal appeared, a faint but unmistakable signature. It was human-readable, though alien sensors had missed it. Jaren's heart raced. "There you are, Alara," he whispered. "I've found you." The journey to bring a princess home had begun, and a human with nothing but ingenuity and courage would face dangers that no alien technology could overcome. Queen Selara, far away on Lithera, felt a strange warmth in her heart, as if the memorial beacons themselves were alive with hope. For the first time in 2 weeks, she allowed herself to believe that her daughter would return. That the human would succeed where others had failed. The galaxy was vast, mysterious, and often cruel. But in its endless reaches, one human was about to prove that courage, determination, and heart could change the course of fate itself. And so, under the twin moons of Lithera, a new chapter began, one where hope, ingenuity, and the human spirit would shine brighter than any star. Captain Jaren's ship glided silently through the dark void at the edge of the hostile star system. The stars looked different here, harsh and cold, shining through clouds of dust and gas that drifted between the asteroids. Jaren's fingers flew over the controls with precision, adjusting the course, checking readings, and analyzing the faint energy signals that had led him here. Every step brought him closer to Princess Alara, yet danger waited in every shadow. The asteroid field ahead was treacherous. Gigantic rocks drifted slowly but unpredictably, some glowing faintly with trapped energy. Jaren knew that any collision could destroy his ship in an instant. He had seen maps of these fields before, but no map could account for their constant movement. Only careful observation, quick thinking, and human intuition could carry him through. He studied the movement patterns, timing his maneuvers with careful precision. He leaned forward, eyes scanning the shifting shapes, noting small differences in speed and trajectory. The ship hummed beneath him, responding to every subtle adjustment he made. Humans were not the strongest or the fastest in the galaxy, but they had a unique quality, the ability to adapt, to solve problems in ways no one else could predict. Jaren trusted that quality more than any shield or weapon. Suddenly, a signal appeared on the scanner. It was weak, barely detectable, but unmistakable. The same energy signature he had been tracking for days. His heart skipped a beat. "Ilara," he whispered, his voice steady but full of hope. "I'm close." "Hold on." The asteroid field opened into a clearing, revealing the small colony where the princess was being held. It was a grim place, surrounded by high walls of dark metal and guarded by drones and patrol ships. Energy fields crackled in the air, designed to keep anyone from entering or leaving. Jaren studied the layout carefully. A direct approach would be suicide. He would have to use his wits. He leaned back in his chair, thinking. The human's advantage was not in brute strength or alien technology, it was creativity. He pulled out a small device he had built himself, a simple machine that could mimic the energy signature of the colony's patrol ships. With careful adjustments, he set it to emit a pattern that would confuse the sensors. He smiled. "Let's see how they like a little human ingenuity." He could feel it. The life of a young princess depended on his next moves. Inside the colony, Princess Alara was awake but trapped. The energy field surrounding her was faintly visible, humming softly as it contained her. She had been alone for days, surviving on small rations left by her captors, who seemed to be more interested in keeping her alive than feeding her properly. Despite the fear, she remained calm. She had learned to think clearly, to conserve energy, and to observe the movements of her captors. But hope had been fading. That is, until she sensed a change in the energy patterns outside. Alara watched as a small ship approached the colony, moving in ways that defied expectation. It was unlike any alien craft she had seen before. Then she noticed something remarkable. The energy field that surrounded her began to fluctuate slightly, as if responding to the approach of the ship. Her heart leapt. Could this be it? Could someone have found her? Captain Jaren had landed near the edge of the inner compound, hiding his ship behind a cluster of jagged rocks. He studied the energy field, noting its rhythm and frequency. It was strong but not unbreakable. With careful timing and observation, he could exploit its natural pulses to create an opening. He adjusted a small handheld device, placing it near the field. Sparks flew as the machine hummed, and the energy barrier flickered briefly. Jaren's eyes shone with determination. "Ilara," he whispered into his communicator, hoping the signal would reach her. "I'm here, can you hear me?" He activated his device, and the field shimmered violently, then split just enough for him to slip inside. Inside the compound, the atmosphere was tense. Patrols moved back and forth, unaware of the small human who had found his way through their defenses. Jaren's movements were quiet, precise, and deliberate. He studied the guards' patterns, anticipating their next steps. Humans had an advantage even here: unpredictability. The aliens could not predict what he would do next, and that gave him the edge. Princess Alara felt it before she saw him, a presence, careful and deliberate, moving within the shadows. She held her breath, watching as a small figure approached. The human moved with a calm confidence that told her he was no ordinary rescuer. When he finally appeared before her, she could see the intelligence and focus in his eyes. He was not armed with weapons, but with cleverness, determination, and courage. "I'm Captain Jaren," he said softly. "I'm here to get you out." She could tell he was human, a species she had heard stories about, known for ingenuity and bravery. Despite the dangers, she felt a spark of hope. How did you find me?" she asked. "I followed the energy signals," Jaren replied. "It wasn't easy, but humans are good at seeing patterns where others see chaos. I've tracked you here, and I'm going to get you out. But we need to move quickly." Sparks flew and alarms began to ring throughout the compound. Jaren stayed calm. He analyzed the problem quickly, adjusting his device to synchronize with the natural rhythm of the energy barrier. Ilara followed his instructions, carefully positioning herself to minimize exposure. The field flickered and hummed, then split wide enough for them to pass through. Alarms blared and the guards began to converge. Jaren grabbed Ilara's hand. "Move," he said, and they sprinted through the compound. Humans were fast learners and adaptable in ways that the aliens could not predict. They ducked behind crates, leapt over barriers, and used the shadows as their allies. They reached the outer walls of the colony, where the patrol drones hovered like silent sentinels. Jaren activated a small device that emitted a pulse, disrupting the drone's sensors temporarily. They zipped past the guards, making it to the small ship he had hidden. Once inside, Jaren piloted the craft with careful precision, weaving between asteroids and evading pursuit. Ilara clutched the seat, her eyes wide with relief. You really did it," she said, voice trembling. "You found me." She had been trapped, alone, and afraid for days, but now hope returned. She realized that humans were extraordinary in ways she had never imagined. They could take risks, improvise, and find solutions that no one else could. As they traveled through the asteroid field, Jaren explained their route home. It would be dangerous. The system was patrolled by hostile forces, and the journey would test every skill they had. But humans, he said, thrived on challenges. Where others saw impossible odds, humans saw opportunity. Ilara listened carefully, absorbing every detail. She had learned much in her captivity, but now she saw a new kind of bravery, one that was not about weapons or power, but about courage, intelligence, and the willingness to face danger head-on. Hours turned into a long, tense night as they navigated through space. Patrol ships scanned the area, and rogue asteroids threatened their path. Yet Jaren remained calm, making precise adjustments and anticipating dangers before they appeared. His confidence, his ingenuity, and his focus inspired Ilara. For the first time since her disappearance, she felt truly safe. Far away on Lithera, Queen Salara watched the night sky. She lit a single memorial beacon, praying silently for her daughter's safe return. Deep in her heart, she felt a spark of hope, something she had not felt in days. Perhaps the human was truly the hero the galaxy had not expected, a small figure capable of incredible feats. As the distant stars stretched endlessly before them, Jaren and Alara continued their journey. Each obstacle they faced required quick thinking and precise action. They were not invincible, but their courage, creativity, and determination carried them forward. In the darkness of space, human ingenuity shone brighter than any star, and so the first steps of the rescue were complete. Princess Alara had been found, alive and well, thanks to a human who refused to accept failure. But the journey home had only just begun, and dangers still awaited them in the vast, uncharted reaches of space. Yet for the first time in many days, hope burned bright, stronger than fear, stronger than doubt. And the human who had found her, small and unarmed in a galaxy of powerful aliens, proved that courage, intelligence, and determination could triumph against all odds. The small ship moved through the darkness of the asteroid belt, weaving between jagged rocks and narrow gaps with precision. Jaren's hands never wavered on the controls, and Alara clutched the edge of her seat, her heart pounding. Behind them, the colony they had escaped from was alive with alarms. Patrol ships were mobilizing, scanning every sector, but Jaren had a plan, a human plan. "Stay low," he said calmly, his eyes scanning the radar. "They have fast ships, but they are predictable. Watch the pattern of their movement. That's how we get past." She had never seen a human move with such confidence. Humans, she realized, were not just clever, they were adaptable. They could improvise and think in ways that no alien technology could anticipate. In many ways, Jaren reminded her of a wild wind, unpredictable, unstoppable, and yet graceful. The first obstacle appeared quickly. A patrol ship swept through the field, its sensors sweeping in wide arcs. Jaren adjusted the ship's trajectory, slipping between two massive asteroids just as the patrol passed. Sparks of debris flew past them, one grazing the hull. Alara gasped, but Jaren remained focused, his calm demeanor steadying her fear. "Humans see things differently," he said quietly, as if thinking aloud. "You look for rules, I look for opportunities." They moved deeper into the belt, avoiding patrols and weaving through the treacherous rocks. Each asteroid seemed larger, more dangerous, yet Jaren's hands were steady, his eyes sharp. They passed through narrow gaps that no standard ship could navigate, and Alara realized that humans had an instinct for survival that was unlike any alien logic. Suddenly, the ship's radar beeped urgently. A patrol drone had detected them. Red lights flashed on the control panel, and the sound of alarms echoed through the small cabin. "They see us," Alara said, panic creeping into her voice. Jaren did not flinch. He quickly adjusted the settings on a small device near the control panel. A pulse of energy shot out, disrupting the drone's sensors. The red light flickered and then disappeared. "Sometimes you have to fight with your mind, not your weapons," he said calmly. Alara watched, fascinated. Humans were not just brave, were clever. The drone could have destroyed them in seconds, but Jaren had used logic and improvisation to survive. She had spent days in captivity, yet she realized she had never felt this safe or hopeful before. Hours passed as they navigated through the asteroid belt. Each movement required careful thought. They dodged collapsing rocks, avoided patrols, and used the natural layout of the field to their advantage. Jaren's confidence never wavered, and Alara began to trust him completely. At one point, they encountered a narrow canyon between two massive asteroids. The sensors indicated a patrol ship approaching from behind. Jaren's eyes narrowed. "We'll have to make a jump," he said. "It's risky, but it's our only way out." Rocks scraped past the hull, sparks flying, but they emerged on the other side unscathed. You did it," Alara whispered, her voice filled with awe. "That was impossible." Rogue pirates and mercenaries roamed the asteroid belts, hunting for easy prey. Jaren knew that one misstep could mean death. He adjusted their course, heading toward a dense field of smaller asteroids where larger ships could not follow. Alara watched him work, fascinated by his confidence. He was not the strongest or the fastest, but he had something that the galaxy had underestimated: the ability to think differently, to use every tool, every observation, and every moment to survive. As they moved through the dense field, one of the smaller asteroids exploded unexpectedly. Debris flew toward them. Jaren adjusted the ship instantly, spinning it just enough to avoid the worst of the impact. The cabin shook violently, and Alara held on tight, but the ship remained intact. That was close, she said, her voice trembling. Jaren glanced at her, a calm smile on his face. Close is where humans do their best work, he said. We learn to survive in ways others cannot imagine. After several tense hours, they reached a quieter sector of the asteroid field. The patrols were thinner and the dangers less immediate. Jaren allowed himself a brief moment to rest, leaning back in his seat. Ilara, he said, breaking the silence, how are you holding up? You make me feel like we can get through this. She realized that humans had something unique, something that no alien technology or army could match. It was courage, determination, and the ability to think in ways that no one expected. Their rest was brief. Sensors picked up another patrol approaching from the far side of the field. This time it was a faster, more aggressive ship. Jaren's eyes narrowed. We'll have to take a risk, he said. But it's the only way to get through. Ilara, hold on, he said, his voice calm but firm. We're almost through. Ilara let out a deep breath, her hands shaking slightly. She looked at Jaren, awe in her eyes. You really are incredible, she said. Jaren smiled faintly. Humans have a way of doing the impossible, he said simply, and we never give up no matter how hard it gets. The hostile system was still filled with threats, rogue ships, unstable asteroids, and energy anomalies. Jaren's eyes never left the controls, and he adjusted the ship constantly, always anticipating the next challenge. Hours turned into a long, tense night as they navigated through the system. Each obstacle required quick thinking and precise action. They dodged collapsing asteroids, avoided patrols, and used every trick in the human playbook to survive. Through it all, Ilara learned more about humans than she had ever known. They were clever, brave, and unpredictable. They could face danger with a calm mind and a steady heart. They were not the strongest, but they were extraordinary in ways no technology or army could match. Finally, as the first light of a distant star touched the edges of the asteroid field, Jaren allowed himself a brief smile. They had survived the worst of the dangers so far, and Princess Ilara was safe. Ilara looked out the viewport at the vastness of space. She had been trapped, alone, and afraid for days, yet now she felt hope. Hope not just for herself, but for the galaxy. Humans, she realized, could change everything. They were small, fragile, and underestimated, but they were capable of incredible things. Jaren's voice broke the silence. We're not out of danger yet, but we've made it through the worst. Trust me, Ilara, we can do this. Together, they would navigate the dangers of the hostile system, and she would return home to her mother. And so, through the darkness of the asteroid belt and the dangers of the hostile star system, the human and the princess pressed onward. Every challenge, every obstacle, every moment of fear was met with courage, intelligence, and determination. They were not invincible, but their spirit shone brighter than the stars around them. In the vastness of space, humans proved once again that strength was not only measured in weapons or technology. It was measured in courage, creativity, and the refusal to give up. And so the journey continued, with danger ahead, but hope stronger than fear. The small ship moved through the endless darkness of space, carrying Princess Ilara and Captain Jaren farther from the hostile system. Stars glittered around them like distant fires, but the light offered no warmth, only a reminder of how small and fragile they were in the vast universe. Jaren's hands never left the controls. He had guided them through the treacherous asteroid belt, through enemy patrols, and now the next challenge awaited, the journey home through uncharted space. Ilara, we're entering a sector controlled by mercenaries, Jaren said, his voice steady but tense. They capture travelers for ransom. They are dangerous and unpredictable. We have to move carefully. The mercenaries' ships were fast, but they followed predictable patrol patterns. Using the ship's sensors and his own instincts, Jaren plotted a course that would keep them in the shadows, moving between nebulae and using cosmic debris as cover. Humans were not the most advanced beings in the galaxy, but they could think in ways others could not. That would be their advantage. Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by the soft hum of the ship's engines. The quiet allowed Ilara to ask questions, and she was curious. Captain, how do you do it? How do you stay so calm in situations like this? It lets you think, adapt, and survive when others panic. They were fast, heavily armed, and closing in quickly. Jaren's eyes narrowed. We need a plan, and we need it fast. The mercenaries fired, their lasers cutting through space, but the humans' improvisation kept the ship safe. Ilara held on tight, her heart racing. They're catching up, she shouted. Jaren's fingers flew over the controls. Trust me, Humans are good at solving impossible problems. Just watch and learn. We need to keep moving and use the nebula for cover." He guided the ship carefully, threading through the shifting clouds while the mercenaries stumbled behind them. Alara watched in amazement. The nebula glowed in strange colors, shades of violet, green, and gold that twisted and swirled like living light. It was beautiful, but it was dangerous. A single miscalculation could send them hurtling into a deadly mass of gas and rock. Yet Jaren's focus never wavered. Every move was deliberate, every decision precise. Hours turned into tense days as they moved through the nebula and beyond. Food and water were limited, and the small ship could not sustain them indefinitely. Yet humans were resilient. Jaren rationed supplies carefully, making sure Alara had what she needed without wasting anything. She marveled at his ability to stay calm, to plan ahead, and to improvise when conditions changed. One evening, as they rested briefly, Jaren noticed a signal on the ship's sensors. It was faint, but it indicated a ship in distress nearby. Alara looked at him, puzzled. "Shouldn't we ignore it? We have our own dangers to deal with." "If someone is in danger and we can save them without risking our mission, we do. It's not just about survival, it's about doing what's right." Using his knowledge and a few clever tricks, Jaren carefully guided the transport ship out of danger. It was slow and meticulous work, but humans had patience when others would have panicked. Alara watched in awe as he worked. "You saved them," she said quietly. "All this danger and you still help others. We use our minds and our hearts together." Days passed, and the dangers of the hostile system gradually faded behind them. The stars outside seemed calmer, and for the first time, Alara allowed herself to think of home. Lithera was far away, but hope burned brighter than fear. She began to see the human in a new light, not just as a rescuer, but as a symbol of everything her people had underestimated about humans. Yet space still held challenges. A rogue fleet appeared, drawn by the energy signatures of both their ship and the transport they had saved. The ships were fast and heavily armed, their intent clear: capture or destroy. Jaren studied them carefully, noting patterns and weaknesses. Humans excelled in situations like this because they could improvise solutions that others could not predict. He adjusted the ship's shields, rerouted energy to engines, and prepared for a daring maneuver. "Alara, this is going to be tricky," he said. "We'll have to use the environment to our advantage. Stick with me." The rogue ships followed, firing as they went, but Jaren's quick thinking and understanding of physics allowed them to use the debris as cover. One ship collided with a large fragment, disabling its engines. Another misjudged a turn and spun out of control. Alara could not help but marvel. "I've never seen anything like this," she whispered. You make it look so easy." Their unpredictable movements, combined with Jaren's human ingenuity, had turned the hunters into the hunted. It was not power or technology that won the day, but intelligence, creativity, and the courage to act under pressure. Hours later, the last of the rogue ships gave up the chase. Jaren breathed a small sigh of relief, but he did not relax completely. "We're still not home," he said. "But we've survived the worst. Keep your focus." As they moved closer to Lithera, the familiar glow of the kingdom began to appear in the distance. Alara's heart leapt. She had been trapped, frightened, and uncertain, but now hope became reality. The human who had saved her had shown her a truth she had never understood fully. Humans, small and underestimated, could face impossible odds and succeed where others failed. Finally, as they approached the outskirts of the kingdom, Jaren allowed a moment of quiet triumph. The dangerous journey through hostile space was almost over. The obstacles they had faced had tested every skill, every decision, and every ounce of courage. Yet through it all, humans had proven their greatest strength: the ability to survive, adapt, and act with intelligence and compassion even when the odds were stacked against them. Alara looked out at Lithera, glowing softly in the evening light. The floating rivers sparkled and the twin moons hung high in the sky. She felt relief, joy, and gratitude. But above all, she felt admiration for the human who had brought her back from danger, who had shown her that courage, cleverness, and determination could overcome even the most advanced threats. Jaren glanced at her and smiled. "We're almost home, Alara, just a little further." Ready to return to her mother, to her people, and to a life she had feared she might never see again. And she knew, deep in her heart, that humans, brave, clever, and unpredictable, had changed the course of her life forever. The ship moved steadily toward Lithera, carrying the princess and her human rescuer through the final stretch of space. Every challenge they had faced had taught them something. Humans could survive where others could not, act where others hesitated, and hope where others despaired. And as the kingdom came into view, glowing in the golden light of the twin moons, hope became certainty. Home was near, and with it, a new understanding of the extraordinary power of humanity. The small ship emerged from the last veil of nebula and drifted toward Lithera, its golden glow warming the cockpit even in the cold of space. Captain Jaren guided it carefully, ensuring that every system was functioning. Princess Alara sat beside him, her eyes fixed on the horizon where her home planet grew larger and brighter with each passing moment. She had survived captivity, perilous asteroids, and hostile fleets, all thanks to this human who had refused to give up. Now at last she was about to return home. "Alara," Jaren said, breaking the quiet, "you've been through a lot. Are you ready for the landing?" "Just trust the process." Citizens had gathered in open spaces, looking up at the sky, unaware that the princess they had mourned so deeply was returning alive. Jaren maneuvered the ship toward a hidden landing platform near the palace, careful to avoid the throngs of citizens below. "We'll land here," he said. "It's safer, less risk of being seen until we're ready." The engines hummed and then quieted, leaving only the sound of the wind and the faint hum of energy from the rivers. Jaren helped her unstrap and guided her out of the cockpit. The cool night air of Lithera brushed against her face, and she took a deep breath, savoring the feeling of being home. As they approached the palace, a figure appeared on the balcony, Queen Selara. She had sensed their return before anyone else, feeling a deep stirring in her heart, a hope that she dared to believe in but had kept guarded. Her robes shimmered under the moonlight as she stepped forward, her eyes wide with both relief and disbelief. "Ilara," she whispered, her voice trembling. Princess Alara ran forward, tears streaming down her face. "Mother," she cried, throwing herself into her mother's arms. The queen held her tightly, unable to speak, overwhelmed by the miracle of her daughter's safe return. Jaren stepped back respectfully, watching the reunion with quiet satisfaction. He had risked everything to bring the princess home, relying on courage, intelligence, and the human instinct to survive and protect. And now, seeing the joy on their faces, he felt the weight of every challenge lift from his shoulders. The queen finally looked at him, her eyes filled with gratitude. You brought her back to me, alive. How did you manage this?" "Your daughter helped too. She was brave, smart, and determined. Together we made it through." Humans are incredible. In the palace courtyard, citizens had begun to notice something unusual. News spread quickly. An unusual ship had landed, and the princess was alive. Word reached the main square, and soon people gathered, their faces lit with hope and wonder. Children pointed at the ship, imagining the bravery of the human who had come to save their princess. Adults whispered tales of courage, marveling that one small being could achieve what so many thought impossible. Jaren remained calm, standing slightly apart as the celebrations began. Humans were not accustomed to praise, yet he appreciated the gratitude and acknowledgement. It was not for glory that he had acted, but for the right thing. The queen turned to him. "I must ask, what is your name? Your courage, your intelligence, your willingness to act when others hesitated. You have earned a place in Lithera's history. Humans are incredible. Our princess has returned, and let it be known that humans, small, clever, brave, have earned a place in the hearts of Lithera." The princess was home, and the human who had saved her became a hero not only in their story but in the history of Lithera itself. Later, as the celebrations quieted, Queen Selara took Jaren aside. "You risked your life to save mine child. You have my eternal gratitude. I wish to offer you citizenship, a home, and knowledge of Lithera's most advanced technology. You have earned it. Humans may not be the strongest in the galaxy, but we have something more: heart, determination, and intelligence. You have all of it." Princess Alara resumed her duties, though she remained close to Jaren, learning more about humans and their unique abilities. She realized that courage was not measured in technology or size, but in the willingness to face danger, to think differently, and to act when others would hesitate. Jaren prepared to leave soon, for the galaxy was vast and filled with challenges that required human ingenuity. Yet before he departed, Alara and her mother presented him with a token of Lithera's gratitude, a small crystal pendant infused with the kingdom's energy, a symbol of hope, courage, and recognition. "Take this with you," the queen said. "It will remind you that you are always welcome here, and that even the smallest among us can make a difference in the lives of others." Jaren climbed into his ship, ready to return to the stars. He looked back one last time at Lythra, at the princess he had saved and the queen who had trusted him, and felt a quiet pride. Humans were often underestimated in this galaxy of powerful and advanced species. They were small, fragile, and unpredictable, yet they had courage, intelligence, and heart. They could face danger, overcome impossible odds, and inspire hope in even the darkest times. Jaren's ship lifted from the platform, ascending into the night sky. The people of Lythra watched, their hearts full of gratitude and wonder. Princess Alara waved, tears in her eyes, knowing that a human had changed her life forever. As the ship disappeared into the vast reaches of space, Queen Solara whispered, "May the stars always guide you, human. You are a hero in every sense of the word." In the darkness of space, Captain Jaren knew that there would always be new challenges, new lives to protect, and new worlds to explore. But he also knew this truth. Even a single human, small and fragile among the stars, could change the course of fate, bring hope where despair had ruled, and shine brighter than the most distant star. And so, humanity proved once again that strength was not only measured in power or technology, but in courage, intelligence, and the refusal to give up. Qualities that could save lives, inspire civilizations, and forever alter the galaxy. Lythra would never forget the day a human returned their princess, alive and safe, and in doing so, reminded all that hope, bravery, and heart could triumph against any odds.